The city, where it all began. Imagine standing in the desert of southern Mesopotamia thousands of years ago. The air shimmers with heat. The Euphrates winds its slow path across the plain, and in the distance, rising above the mud-brick houses, towers the gleaming ziggurat of Uruk, the very first true city in human history. Uruk was not just a city. It was the birthplace of writing, the crucible of kingship, the stage where gods and myths were woven into human identity. From its walls came Gilgamesh, the legendary king whose epic quest for immortality is still told today. From its temples came Inanna, the fierce goddess who stole the sacred powers of civilization itself. This is the story of Uruk, the city that invented the very idea of cities. Chapter 1. Founding the First City. According to the Sumerian king list, Uruk was founded around 4500 BCE by King Enmerkar. At first, it was just a settlement on the fertile plains of Sumer, modern-day Warka, in Iraq. But soon, it became the beating heart of Mesopotamia. The name Uruk survived across languages. In Aramaic, it was called Erech. Some historians even suggest it gave rise to the modern name Iraq. Others trace the name to the Arabic al-Iraq, the ancient word for Babylonia. Either way, the city's shadow stretches across history. But what made Uruk different? Why was it not just a settlement, but the first true city? Because in Uruk, humanity invented civilization's cornerstones. The first writing system, cuneiform, around 3200 BCE. Monumental architecture in stone. The first ziggurats, temples rising like man-made mountains. Cylinder seals, tiny engraved stones used like signatures, marking ownership and identity. Think about that. Uruk was the first place on Earth where the idea of the individual mattered enough to be marked in clay. It wasn't just about kings and gods anymore. Identity became part of society itself. For nearly 5,000 years, Uruk was inhabited, and when it finally fell silent around 300 CE, its ruins slumbered beneath the sands until the 19th century, when William Loftus uncovered its secrets for the British Museum. Chapter 2. The Uruk Period. A revolution in human life. To understand Uruk, we need to step back. Before Uruk came the Ubaid period, 5000 to 4100 BCE, when small farming communities dotted the Mesopotamian plains. But something new was brewing: urbanization. Between 4100 and 2900 BCE, the Uruk period transformed scattered villages into a network of cities. And Uruk was the largest, most influential of them all. Archaeologists divide this period into 8 phases, from its earliest rise to its peak and decline. But during its golden age, between 4100 and 3000 BCE, Uruk wasn't just big. It was the hub of trade, administration, and innovation. Artifacts from Uruk appear across Mesopotamia, and even as far as Egypt. This was not just a local town. It was the center of a cultural phenomenon that shaped the ancient world. One of the most famous symbols of Uruk's reach? A humble, mass-produced clay dish, the beveled rim bowl. It was crude, it was disposable, and it was revolutionary. These bowls, stamped from molds by the thousands, were used to pay workers in grain. They were the fast food containers of the ancient world, so common that they were tossed aside after use, just like aluminum foil today. Their sheer spread tells us something profound. Uruk had pioneered not only urban life, but also the idea of mass production. Factories churned out bowls across Mesopotamia, from the city of Mari in the far north to the plains of Sumer. Uruk was no longer just a place. It was a system, a model for how human life could be organized. Chapter 3. The City of Gods, Inanna and Anu. But Uruk was not built on trade and writing alone. It was built on the gods. The city had two great districts. The Anu district, the older quarter, dedicated to the sky god Anu. The Inanna district, newer, walled, and devoted to Inanna, the goddess of love, war, and chaos. Archaeologists found the famous Mask of Warka here, a marble face believed to represent Inanna herself. Her presence loomed over the city, demanding worship, ceremony, and obedience. Why was the Inanna district walled? No one knows for certain. Was it to protect the goddess's sanctity? To keep her rituals secret? Or perhaps, as some scholars suggest, to consolidate power in the hands of male priests, even as Inanna's popularity rose? Whatever the reason, Inanna's role was central. She didn't just dwell in Uruk, she made it supreme. In myth, she traveled to Eridu, the city of her father Enki, the god of wisdom. There she stole the meh, the divine decrees that defined civilization: kingship, art, law, music, craftsmanship. Enki tried to retrieve them. He failed. The meh stayed in Uruk. Civilization itself now belonged to Inanna, and, through her, to her city. This myth explained a historical reality. The decline of Eridu, a rural city tied to the primordial waters, and the rise of Uruk, a city that embodied a new way of life: urban, organized, divine. Chapter 4: Kings, Dynasties, and Decline. Even after its golden age, Uruk remained powerful. During the early dynastic period, 2900 to 2334 BCE, it was still the seat of kings. Its legendary walls, said to have been built by Gilgamesh himself, stood tall as dynasties rose and fell. In 2500 BCE, King Eannatum of Lagash admired Uruk's prestige so much that he linked his rule to it. Later, Lugalzagesi, another powerful king, chose Uruk as his capital. When Sargon the Great forged the Akkadian Empire in 2334 BCE, he too honored Uruk. He maintained and even renovated its sacred districts. The cult of Inanna and Anu endured, shining as symbols of divine authority. Even as power shifted to Babylon, or Akkad, Uruk endured. During the Ur-Thrid period, 2047 to 1750 BCE, it benefited from the so-called Sumerian Renaissance. Later, under the Seleucids and Parthians, long after other cities had crumbled, Uruk still breathed. It wasn't until the Muslim conquest of Mesopotamia in 630 CE that Uruk finally fell silent. Think about that. From 4500 BCE to 630 BCE. Over 5,000 years of continuous life. Few cities in history can claim such longevity. Chapter 5: The Mystery of Uruk's Greatness. Why Uruk? Why here and not elsewhere? Scholars debate this endlessly. Was it geography, politics, divine favor? Historian Paul Kriwacek offers a different lens. History moves through conflict, between progressives and conservatives, between those who say, "Let's try something new," and those who insist, "The old ways are best." Uruk was the place where innovation triumphed, where the old rural traditions of Eridu gave way to the daring leap of urban civilization. The myths tell us this: Inanna's theft of the meh was not just a story of gods. It was a story of humanity. The story of leaving behind the fields and rivers to build walls, temples, and cities. The story of people daring to imagine something new. And that is why Uruk matters. Not just as ruins in the desert, not just as the home of Gilgamesh, but as the birthplace of the world we live in today. Urban, written, organized, and endlessly ambitious. Legacy of the First City. Uruk's life spanned 5 millennia. Its people gave us writing, architecture, administration, mythology, and the very idea of the city itself. Every time we sign a document, build a skyscraper, or imagine a hero in search of immortality, we echo the innovations born in Uruk. Buried beneath layers of mud, much of Uruk still sleeps, but its legacy is awake. In our laws, our stories, our culture, and our very sense of what it means to live together as humans. Uruk was not just the first city. It was the beginning of us all. And that is the story of Uruk, the city that gave birth to civilization, gods, and kings, and whose legacy still shapes the world today.